Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so today is going to be the first GSAP class for the Indian economy. So before I start the class, I just wanted to know how many of you have prepared the notes for the mains part of Indian economy. Do you have your notes ready? The students who have attended my current affairs class. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, others, I assume that you have not yet prepared for the mains part of Indian economy, right? That is what I'm assuming. So keeping that in mind, initially when I start the class, I'll just tell you as to what all things we'll be doing in the GSAP classes. And after that, probably after 10-15 minutes, we'll start with the first topic of the day. So you know the class is for 4 hours. So be ready to sit for a long haul because we are going to cover a number of topics, important topics in today's class. Fine. So with respect to the structure of the class, this is how the classes are going to be structured. First and foremost, because this is the first class for Indian economy, we'll look at the syllabus for Indian economy and then the weightage of Indian economy within the GS paper 3, including this year paper. And then what is the relative weightage of different themes within the economy. So if you look at your syllabus for economy, you have different themes like GDP, inclusive growth, agriculture, infrastructure, and so on. So we'll see what is the weightage of different themes. And then we will have a look at this year mains examination, mains 2025. So we'll look at the nature of questions asked in this year mains. Based upon that, we will discuss as to what should be your approach and strategy for the next year mains examination. Then from your syllabus, I have picked up some important themes and the topics. For those important themes and topics, we are going to cover those themes and topics by having that 360-degree approach. Just an example of that. If you look at your syllabus, right? In the syllabus, you have a first line which is mentioned. The line is issues related to Indian economy. Indian economy and various issues. Now, with respect to issues related to Indian economy, can I say it's an open-ended topic? Because you never know what question UPSC might ask with respect to issues related to Indian economy. Like in this year mains, if you have seen this year mains paper, there was one question about what is the impact of bilateralism on the Indian economy. So you must have seen countries are closing down their borders. There's a growing way of protectionism. There's a growing way of bilateralism. How is that going to have an effect on Indian economy and what should Indian economy do? This particular topic was actually part of this year's economic survey. This year's economic survey, there's a topic called as geo-economic fragmentation. From there, the question was asked in mains. So when we say issues, we are going to look into the issues related to Indian economy and cover all those topics by adopting a 360-degree approach. Though the topics might not be mentioned in your syllabus, but still they are important for the mains examination. For every topic that I will be starting with, I will show you in what way questions were asked in the previous year mains and what questions you might get in the next year mains examination. So for every topic, you might find 3 to 4 practice questions. Out of those practice questions, we'll be discussing the approach to answer writing. So the class is not just about giving you content. The class is focusing on content building. Second, content enrichment, basically to ensure that your content is different from others. And also equally on answer writing. So in the class itself, we'll be writing some answers to the questions which we'll be discussing in the class. And last is the answer writing practice. So this is the overall approach of the GS Advanced program. The basic philosophy of this particular program is, see, I've been meeting so many students preparing for the mains examination. In fact, who have written the mains also, like twice or thrice. And when I speak to them, the biggest problem with their preparation is every one of them has taken prelims so seriously that they have neglected the mains examination, which might be the case with you also. Like if I ask you, do you have your notes ready for Indian economy? You would say, yes, I have all the notes ready. And if I see your notes will be filled up with RBI, monetary policy, balance of payment. But if I ask you, do you have your notes ready on MSP? Or do you have notes ready on mobilization of resources? Blank face. Where is the real game? The real game lies in the mains examination. So the idea of these GS Advanced program is to ensure that your preparation for the mains is ready. And I will be doing that as far as the economy is concerned. Clear? Okay. Now these are the 5 pillars of the economy. I have basically divided your syllabus into 5 pillars. And to begin with, in today's class, I will be starting with the first pillar, that is growth and development. This is going to be the first pillar. And after that, second pillar, budgeting. Third pillar, agriculture, manufacturing, and then last is the infrastructure. That is how we'll be covering this. Have you seen this year mains paper? Everyone has seen that. How many questions were asked, or what are the marks allocated for Indian economy in paper 3 out of 250? How much? It was actually 100. And that has been the situation since last 5 years. In last 5 years, continuously 100 marks have been asked from Indian economy. The same thing has continued in this year exam as well. Just have a look at the breakup of the different subjects. Here you can see for Indian economy, in the last 3 years, consistently 100 marks have been asked for, including this year mains. And if you look at the other subjects are around 50 marks. And there was one surprise which you must have seen in this year paper. The surprise was not a single question has been asked on disaster management. So questions, instead of being asked from disaster management, you could see they have asked more so from environment and other topics. So this year it was 100. Because you guys are preparing for next year mains examination, for sure, assume that the total marks allocated will be once again around 100 only, for sure. And I can even tell you the breakup also. There are 8 questions from Indian economy. First 4 10 marker and the first 4 15 marker. They will be for sure from Indian economy. So these days, there are a number of questions which are interdisciplinary in nature, where you might not be able to find out whether it's a economic question or a environment question. How do you know that? In that particular case, first 4 10 marker and first 4 15 marker related to economic. Is that part clear? Okay. As far as the weightage of different themes is concerned, I told you the pillars of economy. From the pillars of economy, the theme that gets the highest weightage is agriculture. So here it is agriculture, land reforms, food processing and PDS. All of this put together, I have actually put them under one pillar, that is agriculture. The reason is very simple. Other things are related to what? Agriculture. So they have almost 50. So, in GS 3, Indian economy, 100 marks. And for that, agriculture has 50 marks. When you prepare for your prelims examination, For prelims, which pillar you will focus more on? Yes? Which? Banking and finance. For prelims, it is banking and finance. More so, in last 2 to 3 years, focus has shifted more towards capital market. Last 2 to 3 years. But in mains, so far, the focus has been on agriculture. And assume that the focus will remain on agriculture. It will not shift to some other pillar for sure. And if you have seen this year mains paper, how many of you have seen this year mains paper? Please raise your hand. Okay, can you tell me one question from this year mains paper? Any question that you are able to recall? There was not a question on inclusive growth. What is the question? No, someone, you were saying something. You're not saying anything. Okay, anyone? Yeah, someone said something, groundwater. Who said groundwater? Yeah, good. One question was on groundwater crisis. Then, fiscal health index. Very good. Difference between the HDI and inequality adjusted SDI. Okay, then anything else? I told you one question, na? What question did I say? The impact of protectionism and bilateralism on the Indian economy. That question. Then, yeah, other question was on PLI, production linked incentive scheme. If you say this year paper, I would say this year paper was probably the easiest paper in the last 3 to 4 years. The reason is very simple. In last 3 to 4 years in Indian economy, every year there used to be one question which was like a bonser. Example, there was a question in last year mains. The question was difference between care economy and monetized economy. Can I say it's a bonser? When you are under so much of pressure in the exam, in that pressure, writing a 250-word answer on care and monetized economy, it's actually challenging. You may have attempted the question sitting at the confines of your room, where you have luxury of time. In exam, this question was a bonser. That was a question asked in last year mains. Last year mains, there was a question. Discuss the trend and pattern of social expenditure since 1991. People don't know what is the expenditure on social services now. UPSC has asked since 1991. Bonser. Did you get my question? Every time, at least one question has been a bonser. Fortunately, this time, all the 8 questions were low-hanging fruits. All the 8 questions could have got easily predicted in the exam. And people who have attended my current affairs class will know that all these 8 questions we have already covered in the class as well, right? So just see. These are the questions. This is about difference between HDI and inequality adjusted HDI. Why was this question asked? You have heard of a report, World Inequality Lab report. This report shows that India is the most unequal country in the world in terms of income distribution. That is why this question was asked from the theme of inclusive growth. Same way, this is a question from economic survey. Factors influencing the decision of the farmers on the selection of high value crops. Unless you don't know what is high value crop, it's very difficult to write answer to this question. What do you think is a high value crop? Yes? Okay. Someone else, I want something else. When I say high value crops, it's not what you think. It's what government calls at high value crops. You think it is cash crop, right? But when you see PIB, Press Information Bureau, as well as official government source, when government says high value crop, it is essentially referring to horticulture crops, fruits, vegetables. And now you have something called as horticulture plus. Horticulture plus means within horticulture, there are certain crops for which people are getting higher price. something like cashew, cocoa, floriculture, flowers. So that was the question. This was a very easy question. Once again, scope and significance of supply chain management of agriculture commodities. Fiscal health index, once again, a easy question, provided you have studied about fiscal health index. Then a easy question about PLI, production linked incentive, a current affairs question on groundwater crisis, and this is a question which has been repeated already. If you have seen the PYQ, there is a question, elaborate on the scope of food processing industries in India. The second part is a new dimension where you are required to write the measures taken by the government to promote food processing. So these are the 8 questions asked in this year mains examination. Based upon this, as well as the analysis of PYQs, there are some things that you need to focus on. Number 1. See, I'll tell you the biggest challenge. If I ask you a question, a easy question, something like, what are the achievements of PLI? I'll just show you the question. Look at this. Discuss the rationale of PLI. One dimension is reason why PLI has been launched. Second is what are its achievements. And third, what can be done to improve its outcomes. Can I say it's actually easy question for a person who's preparing for mains. But the problem here is, even you guys will be able to write very good points. But the problem is, in the mains examination, you don't have so much of time to sit and recall and then write. It is not like your essay paper. You know, essay paper, you can give some time for brainstorming and then writing the essay. That flexibility, you don't have it for your GS paper. In GS paper, if you get a question on PLI, you should have 1-pager notes ready. And from that 1-pager notes itself, you should fetch points and then start to write those points. So the main idea of these classes, like I said, is to have that 1-pager notes for every topic mentioned in your syllabus. Then, wherever possible, integrate current affairs into your notes. Like in your main syllabus, there's a line mentioned, different types of irrigation systems. And there was this question about groundwater crisis. Irrigation system is a static topic. Groundwater crisis is a current affairs topic. So integrate current affairs into static part. Then adopt a 360-degree approach. Like I said, you have some line mentioned in the syllabus, like mobilization of resources. Do not expect UPSC to ask you question on what are the challenges in mobilization of resources, because it's a very broad-based topic. Instead, you should ask yourself, how will government or how will private sector mobilize resources? Example of that is, when it's talk about mobilization of resources by the government is getting money through what? Tax. Government will get money through, yes, disinvestment. Is there a new way for the government to get money? It is part of your capital account. Huh? Okay, I can say borrowings through bonds. Okay, but I want something else. Dividend, okay. But I'm seeing from the perspective of mains examination. No? Have you heard of something called as monetization of assets? National monetization pipeline. It is one of the ways by which government is getting money by leasing out the assets. NMP. So this is an example of mobilization of resources. So, obviously you have to prepare for a topic like mobilization of resources. But you should also be ready to handle Bonsor questions like bond market or monetization of assets. Clear with that? So that is what we'll be doing in 360-degree approach. Same way, UPSC is quite notorious for mentioning one-liner, government budgeting. What will you prepare for government budgeting? You know, people who have economics optional, they have a separate subject itself called as public financial management. How will you prepare for this topic of government budgeting? You have to link it to the current affairs. With respect to government budgeting, can you tell me what is the latest current affairs about government budgeting? Yes, one he says very right, gender budgeting. What is the kind of budgeting that we are adopting in India? Zero budgeting has been done away with. We are not following zero budgeting. Huh? You said something? No, something else. Have you heard of something called as outcome budgeting? Outcome budgeting you have heard of? So, gender budgeting already question has been asked. I don't think UPSC repeating a question on gender budgeting, but what is likely to be asked is outcome budgeting. Same way, there is some current affairs related to budgeting at an international level. Have you heard of global minimum corporate tax? So that topic is equally important for your mains examination. So when we study government budgeting, we are not confining ourselves to revenue account and capital account, because that is not going to help us for sure. What is important is we'll take a deep dive into the topic of government budgeting and link it to the current affairs. Then, whenever I'm discussing any topic, the value addition I will be doing for these topics is by this approach. BCCDEF. This value addition will help your content to be different from rest of the crowd. For every topic, we'll see what is there from the budget, some committee reports, case studies, diagram, economic survey, and facts. Like I said, answer writing practice we'll be doing in the class. And as far as the source is concerned, please stick to the class notes. If needed, I will be sharing the PPT also. There are some topics which I will ask you to go through from the PPTs. So class notes, PPTs, and if you have enrolled in MGP, from MGP you can do the value addition. Do not do anything more than this, because by end of the class, you will realize whatever content you have got, that content itself, you will find it difficult to replicate. So just stick to the class notes and try to revise that multiple times rather than diversifying your sources. Clear, everyone? Chalo. In today's class, okay, this is a kind of fact sheet which I will be sharing for every topic. Like in today's class, we'll be starting with growth and development. So here I have incorporated all the facts, all the data which is needed for you to enrich your answers. And by now you must have understood that adding facts, data is very important for your mains examination. And you don't generally get data in one particular place. The data is scattered across, especially in economic survey or the budget. So I've just aggregated all the data at one particular place. This is for growth and development. This is for employment. This is for infrastructure. This is for agriculture. This is for manufacturing and services. And this is for inclusive growth. Some of you must be thinking, sir, data is there, but how will I remember this? Hai na? You must be thinking about this. Leave it to me. Leave it to me. I have a very unique way of teaching where when I'm teaching, I will be repeating the data so many times that by the end of the class, you yourself will be able to remember the data. Is that part clear? Don't worry about the remembering data. That is my responsibility. But ensure that once you go after the class, try to remember the data once again. So today's class, We'll starting with growth and development. And I'll just tell you how I have broken down this topic of growth and development. Okay. All of you know how GDP is calculated by expenditure method? GDP by expenditure method, how is it calculated? Yes. Please feel free to open up. GFCE, Government Final Consumption Expenditure. Then? No, I'm saying expenditure method, not the income method. Okay. You may have heard GDP is calculated by this approach, private final consumption expenditure plus gross capital formation plus government final consumption expenditure plus net exports. That is how you would understand the topic of GDP. Okay, now the syllabus says growth and development. But from growth and development, how should you approach this syllabus? How should you break down this syllabus? Look at the first one. First one is private final consumption expenditure. So this itself becomes the one topic, PFC. Second, with respect to PFC, you may have heard a current affairs article about monthly per capita consumption expenditure, which shows that people's consumption pattern has got shifted from food to non-food. For the first time, the expenditure on food has got reduced to below 50%. So that current affairs related to monthly per capita consumption expenditure becomes important. Same way, investment. What's a burning topic with respect to investment, which you have been reading in the newspapers? Yes. Private investment has fallen through 3-year low. Second, anything else about investment? You say something good. Net FDI has fallen by a whopping 96% as compared to the previous year. Fall in private investment, fall in net FDI will become part of your gross capital formation. Net exports. Do you know any current affairs topic about net exports? Which recently was there, that trade deficit has come down. But it is just for a quarter, not that much of significance. Yes, reciprocal tariffs of the US. Very good point. Then economic surveys theme of geo-economic fragmentation, which might affect India's exports. Apart from these four, what else do you think determines the GDP growth rate of India? Apart from these four. Apart from these four, can I say technology also affects GDP? And for technology, what we need is, yes, research and development. Apart from this, we also need, yes, entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship in India is rated to what? It is rated to startups. Look at the factors of production. Land, labor. When I say second one is what? Labor. तो यहाँ पे क्या आएगा? Employment. Land, labor, capital is already here. Entrepreneurship is rated to your startups. So when you cover this topic of growth and development, that is how you need to break down the topic into different dimensions, and that is how you'll get different topics for your mains examination. If you simply prepare for the topic of growth, it is not going to help you understand that. So the same thing I've done, I've just broken down this entire topic into different dimensions. You can just have a look. Planning in India. It is separately mentioned in your syllabus. Savings, consumption and investment. Other drivers of growth. Viksit Bharat. Then mobilization of resources, that is savings and investment, bond market, demographic transition. And these are the topics related to your employment. What I feel is once you cover these topics, there is nothing else to be covered as far as this dimension is concerned. And if anything else is asked, assume like this: if you don't know, someone else will also not know about it. That is the kind of confidence that you should have. Is that part clear? Okay. So in today's class, we'll be starting with this topic. So please write down the list of topics to be covered in today's class. List of topics. Number 1, savings. Number 1, savings. Second, consumption expenditure. Savings, consumption expenditure. Third, monthly per capita. Monthly per capita consumption expenditure. Monthly per capita consumption expenditure. Fine? Okay. I'll just tell you how I generally approach a topic so that, we both are in sync with one another. Generally, what I do is, when I start a topic, I will show you the different dimensions of the topic which I'm going to cover. The different dimensions. Let's say for one topic like savings, there might be 5 to 6 dimensions. When I'm covering those topics, those 5 to 6 dimensions, I will be covering those 5 to 6 dimensions through a mind map approach, where I will write and explain it to you. As far as you are concerned, you have 2 options. 1, you can start writing them in the linear format, the way you normally take notes in a linear format. Or if you want, you can also make a similar mind map, which like I am doing. If you're attempting to do a mind map, do not do it in a portrait mode. Please do it in a landscape mode, because then you would have more space to incorporate that particular content. Idea is, by the time you're done with the class, you have your 1-pager notes ready itself. That mind map which I have prepared in the class, that mind map which I have incorporated, that becomes your 1-pager notes for that particular topic. So it's completely up to you, completely how you want to do it, whether you want to do it in a linear format or you want to do it in a mind map. There are some students who, what they generally do, they sit in the class, write down everything that I cover. They go back home, revise what is covered, and then they try to convert this into 1-pager notes. But how they do it is, when they convert this into 1-pager notes, they don't write details. Just write one single point. Just that one single point will help them recall the points. So it's completely up to you how you want to do it. I just told you as to what is my approach, so that we both are in the same frequency when I'm covering the class. Is that clear, everyone? Okay, let's start. Okay. All of you, just have a look at this topic. This is about all the PYQs. All the PYQs related to growth and mobilization of resources. The latest question was asked in Mains 2024, and this question was asked with respect to rising food inflation. Why was this question asked? There are 2 ways of measuring inflation in India. One is headline inflation and the other one is core inflation. Last year's economic survey had recommended that instead of targeting headline inflation, RBI should start targeting core inflation. That is why this question was asked. And look at this. Explain the difference between computing methodology of India's GDP before and after 2015. Fine. So these are all the PYQs. I will be sharing this. Please have a look at all the previous year questions. can you observe a pattern? The pattern is, it is mix of static and current. It's a mix of static and current. For example, this is current affairs. This is current affairs. This is current affairs. But what is this? This is static part. Even this is a static part. Okay. So we'll start with the first topic, savings, right? Savings. Okay. Here with respect to savings, see here, when I'm discussing a topic, I'm assuming that people are not aware of the basics. So with that assumption, I will be starting a particular topic. So the first dimension that I will be covering about savings is the basics about savings. Like, what do you mean by savings in a country? Who provides for savings in a country? The most basic thing. Once we cover the basics of savings, then we will discuss the relationship between savings and growth. How are they related to one another? Then we will discuss what is the significance of savings. Significance. And then what are the challenges related to mobilization of savings? And then the way forward. So these are the dimensions that I will be covering, starting with what do you actually mean by savings in a country. There's another dimension. That dimension here is what is the present status and trends in savings. Okay, so let's start with the most basic thing. What do you mean by savings? Okay, if you look at economic survey, according to economic survey, when you see savings in India, these savings, they are categorized into two types. One is physical savings, and the second one is financial savings, physical and financial. And when we say physical savings, right? Physical savings is, let's say, savings in the form of land, or savings in the form of a house, or savings in the form of a gold. Okay, just hold on here. Generally, when a household purchases land, building, or gold, we generally categorize this as what? Investment. We don't just see that as investment, we'll also see that as savings. Most important thing, if you're writing an answer on savings, understand savings is not just financial. Savings also means physical savings. And when we say financial savings, yes, let's start with you. You give me an example of financial savings. Any example? Savings in bank, what is that in the form of? That will be form of deposits. Good. Second, आप बताइए. Yes. Any savings, financial savings, apart from deposits? Yeah, someone said stocks, good. Deposits, shares, then? Yes? Huh? Cryptocurrency. Okay, then let's look at the traditional savings first. Okay. You said something. Huh? FD is part of deposits only, no? Bonds, corporate bonds. Can I also add to this government securities? Government securities. Or these days you must have come across that ad, na? Mutual fund sahi hai. So your mutual funds is also kind of financial savings. Not just mutual funds. People take insurance. They invest in insurance product. Like they might take a life insurance, or they might take a motor vehicle insurance. So even that insurance is an example of saving. People invest in pension fund. Even that is an example of savings. So understand, when we say savings, right? It is not just physical money, cash. It is all of this: deposits, shares, bonds, government securities, mutual funds, insurance, pension, and so on. This savings in India can be done by three different stakeholders. Three stakeholders. One is public sector. Public sector means government as well as PSUs, public sector undertakings. It's visible at the back. Font size is okay. Okay. Then the second one is savings by the private sector. And third one is savings by the households. Okay, let's concentrate on the public sector, which is the first one is government. Do you think government has money to save? Do you think government has money to save? You must have studied in the foundation classes that the expenditure of the government is generally more than the receipts. That is why the government borrows money every year. When government is borrowing money, where is the scope of saving? So when we say public sector, government savings is almost equal to zero. But who will save money? PSUs. Let's say ONGC. ONGC has made profit in a year. Whatever profit ONGC makes, some amount of profit it will transfer to the government as a dividend. Some amount of profit it can invest in the FD in a bank. Then it becomes whose savings? ONGC saving. And ONGC is part of public sector. Did you get the point? Even the private sector can invest in or save money in deposit, shares and bonds or government securities. Same way, even households can also do that. Fine. Take a guess. 1, 2, 3. Who do you think accounts for the least share of savings in India? Private sector? I told you public sector, government savings is almost, in fact, not zero. Some cases it can become negative also, right? So least will be whose? Public sector. Highest kiska hoga? Household savings is highest, which is important for your prelims examination also. When I come to this part, present status and trends, I will tell you what is the actual savings rate of India. Clear with that? Okay. So I hope we are done with the basics. Any doubt in the basics? Sure. Okay. Let's move to the relationship between savings and growth. Okay. 1 minute. Tell me or establish a relationship between savings and GDP growth. 1 minute. Please tell me. Make a flow chart or do a thought process, whatever it takes, you do it. And tell me what exactly is the relationship between the two. How is savings and growth interrelated? Take your time. Take your time. Do not jump to conclusions so early. You have 1 minute. Utilize your time efficiently. 1, 2. Only 2 people so far. 3, good. 4, 5, 6, 7, good. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, let's start with you. Yes. I want a direct relationship between savings and GDP. So you mean to say savings increases means GDP growth increases. Is that what you're trying to say? Okay. सेविंग्स बढ़ेगा तो इन्वेस्टमेंट बढ़ेगा, इन्वेस्टमेंट बढ़ेगा तो जीडीपी का. ओके, ठीक है. 1, आई टेक इट. यू वांटेड टू से समथिंग? हाँ, आप. Okay, good. Someone else wants to have a counter view on this. He says 1 point. He says not all the savings will necessarily lead to investment. Good. Why? He says what he's trying to convey here is when you say savings, what savings will lead to gross capital formation? Not physical savings. What kind of savings will lead to investment? Financial savings. Very good point. I take it. Very good. You were saying something? Same point? You wanted to convey same point as this or something else? Someone else has a counter view? Please. One second. Hold on. He has a good point. What you are trying to convey? What he's trying to say, if people start to save more money, people will purchase less goods. If people are purchasing less goods, what will happen to consumption expenditure? Falls. And if consumption expenditure falls, what will happen to GDP? GDP falls. Someone rightly said increase in savings will lead to increase in investment and that will lead to increase in GDP. But there's a counter view also where increase in savings might lead to fall in GDP. Let's try to see the exact relationship between savings and GDP. Have you heard of a very famous economist called as Keynesian economics? Keynes. We'll try to bring him here as well. We'll not talk about optional obviously, but see it from the perspective of GS. Let's see here. Okay. So with respect to relationship between savings and growth, let's see here, everyone. Let's start with a scenario where savings in a country is lower. People are saving very less amount of money. If people are saving very less amount of money, whatever money they are earning, most of that money they are using it to purchase goods. They are saving less. So can I say that saving is lower? It means there is high demand for goods. This is one condition. Second, if people are saving less money, generally, let's talk about financial savings. Where are they saving money? They are mostly saving money in the banks, deposits. So when the savings is lower, two conditions come into play. One, people are purchasing more goods, but people are depositing less money with the banks. So here, problem number one is less money with banks to give loans. Please tell me, if banks have less money to give loans, what will happen to rate of interest on loans? Rate of interest on loans will increase. Which means cost of capital or rate of interest on loans will increase. But here, people are demanding for more goods. Demand for goods is higher. Think if I'm a company, I'm a private sector company, whether I make investment or not will depend upon two factors. Number one, whether there is adequate demand for goods. And second, what is the cost of capital for me? During this case, demand for goods is high, so I would want to make investment. But what is the problem? What will discourage me from making investment? Cost of capital is higher. So because the cost of capital is higher, but demand of goods is higher, this one is very high. So this will, in a way, discourage investment. If it discourage investment, can I say that this will further lead to a decrease in supply of goods / services? Think of it, demand is already very high, but what is happening to supply? Supply is falling. What will happen to inflation? Inflation will increase. If the GDP falls because of rising inflation, what is that phenomena called as? If the GDP falls because of rising inflation, what is that term called as? Stagflation. Exactly. This will lead to a situation of stagflation, which is inflation plus fall in GDP growth. Huh. Is this okay? Or you want? Okay. Rate of interest, ROI, rate of interest on loans. Is this part clear to everyone? Has everyone taken down? Okay. Let's look at the other situation. Other situation is where, let's say, the savings increase to very high value. In that case, okay. Here, people are saving a lot of money. If people are saving a lot of money, in that particular case, we can say that there is lower demand for goods, but there is more deposits with the banks. Okay. Now tell me whether investment will increase here or not. Look at the situation where people are saving more money, banks have more capital to give loans, rate of interest on loans will decrease. Would people invest money now? Will they invest? Look at the other situation. Other situation, what is the situation here? Lower demand. डिमांड ही नहीं है गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज का. सो अ कंपनी विल थिंक I am getting loans from bank at very low rate of interest. But company will think, for whom should I produce goods and services? Best example, COVID-19 pandemic. Rate of interest on loans got reduced. Banks were giving loans to companies at zero rate of interest, or a lower rate of interest. But did companies actually make investment? They did not, because they were more concerned about what? Demand. So in this particular case, even this will discourage investment, as there is lower demand for goods. Did everyone get this point or not? Yes? Okay. Now, if investment is discouraged, can I say that it will lead to fall in GDP? GDP will fall. If GDP falls, please tell me what will happen to income level of the people? Yes? Income level of the people also falls. Okay. Now this is where, please focus. I'm going to connect the first thing to the last point. You are in an economy where there is fall in GDP. Because of fall in GDP, your income level is not increasing. In fact, your income level is falling. You will become very, very pessimistic about the future. When I say you will become very pessimistic about the future, means you will think, my income is not increasing. It might so happen that my job may be lost. When people become too pessimistic, what will happen is, whatever limited money which they earn, rather than spending it, whatever limited money they earn, they'll try to save more of it. Best example, COVID-19, if you look at middle class and upper middle class, they did not lose their jobs. These people were earning money. But what these people started doing, they never spent money. They started saving more money because they thought, probably I might lose my job. Or they were thinking, when will this lockdown be lifted? Probably the company might not get revived itself. So people, rather than spending, they started saving more. Have you heard of something called as pent-up demand? What happened is, when lockdown was lifted, people become very optimistic. People thought, now this is the time. I've saved money. Now let me spend that particular money. It is also called as revenge spending. Or you must have heard of that phrase, revenge tourism that time. What is revenge tourism that time? People thought, I have not traveled to, let's say, Manali, Shimla for so much long time. This is the right time I'll travel to these hill stations. So, especially when there is so much of pessimism, people will save more and spend less. So if income level falls, there is growing pessimism among the people. And when there's growing pessimism among the people, this will further lead to more savings. So that is how you connect the first to the last point. Is there any country which is facing this problem? Just hold on. You can write down later. Think of a country where the savings rate is very high. The country has become almost stagnant. People are saving very lot of money. Good. Example is Japan. Fortunately, China is not in that stage now. Germany, it's a different problem, not this. Countries like Japan, and now it is Italy. Countries such as Japan and Italy they are saving more amount of money. So because of that, they have got into almost a kind of stagnation, right? And this particular phenomena where higher savings is leading to fall in GDP. This phenomena, some of you may have heard of this phenomena. This phenomena itself, we call it as paradox of thrift. How many have heard of this paradox of thrift? 1, 2, only 2 people? 3 people? Why are we calling it as paradox? Thrift here means savings. Increase in savings should ideally lead to increase in GDP. But this is a classical case where increase in savings is leading to fall in GDP. Paradox of thrift. So write that full line. Paradox of thrift refers to a situation. Paradox of thrift refers to a situation wherein increase in savings leads to fall in GDP. Leads to fall in the GDP. Did everyone get the point? So please have a look at the flowchart which you have prepared. I have given you 2 scenarios. Scenario 1 where the savings rate is very less. Scenario 2 where the savings rate is very high. In both the 2 situations, what is happening to our GDP? GDP is falling. So what exactly is the relationship between savings and GDP? It is similar to the relationship between inflation and GDP. You must have studied in your foundation classes that if the inflation is too high, it is bad. If the inflation is too low, it is also equally bad. What is good is moderate inflation. So by that logic, what is good for the economy? Moderate savings. I hope you understood. This is how you need to establish the relationship between the 2. So here it is said, if I could show you the last part, how are they related to one another? It's like saying you have moderate savings. Moderate savings means there is a moderate demand, and at the same time banks have access to more deposits. So moderate demand, and because banks have more deposits, this will encourage investment in our economy. As the investment increases, we can expect that the GDP growth rate will also increase. As the GDP increases, income of the people will increase. Okay. Just pay attention now, everyone. I'll just connecting the last 2 things. You can write down later. GDP is growing. Because the GDP is growing, people are earning more. Let's say 1 year, people's income is increasing by 10%. Now, when people income increases, can I say people's expenditure will also increase every year? Let's say 5 years back you purchase an iPhone 5s. Now you'll probably purchase a new brand of iPhone, the new version of iPhone. As your income increases, expenditure will also increase. But if you compare by what extent income and expenditure increases, between these two, which one will increase more always? Expenditures will increase more. That should not happen. If your income is increasing by 10%, your expenditure should increase by less than 10%. If your expenditure is increasing by more than 10%, it means you are borrowing money, which should not be the case. Did you get the point? If you are earning 1,000 rupees more as compared to last year, your expenditure should not increase by more than 1,000 rupees. Your expenditure should increase by less than 1,000. So, if income of the people increases, what happens mostly is increase in income will be higher than increase in expenditure. What will happen to savings once again? Yes, once again, more savings. Now this is what we call it as a virtuous economic cycle. And this is what was recommended by Economic Survey 2018-19. This is the recommendation of the Economic Survey as well. Is everyone clear? Any doubts here? Okay. Now with respect to this mobilization of savings, right? This mobilization of savings, if I could give you two examples. All of you have studied about the 5-year plans, no? What is the second 5-year plan? Mahalanobis model. This particular model focus on heavy industrialization. Anyone knows what was the first 5-year plan? Harrod-Domer model. You may have just read that in the book, na? Ki Harrod-Domer model kuch to model hai. Harrod-Domer model is this. It is not for agriculture. Harrod-Domer model was to mobilize savings and to have this particular GDP. You have only heard the word Harrod-Domer. You thought, acha, prelims mein question aayega, to I'll write this, I'll tick mark this Harrod-Domer. But this is what is Harrod-Domer model, which was adopted in the first 5-year plan. Another country which has focused on this approach to have a higher GDP growth rate is China, where the savings rate during the time when China was having very high GDP growth rate, during that time, the savings rate of China was around 40%. Savings rate of 40% of GDP. Yes, is everyone clear? Huh. It is same as, no, trickle down was different. Trickle down is very different. Harrod-Domer model, contrary to what we think, Harrod-Domer model basically focused on ensuring that we are able to get more savings. You must have heard of programs like Community Development Program. So all of that focus on this approach. Mobilize savings of people, then increase investment. As the income increases, people's income increase will more than expenditure, further leading to this approach, virtuous cycle. I hope we are clear. Quickly have a look at the three ways how savings are interlinked to one another. I assume none of you have any doubt now. Okay. If that is the case, I'll going to show you a PYQ. We'll come back to this PYQ. Do not worry. Please look at the question asked in Mains 2017. Mains 2017 question says, among several factors for India's potential growth, savings rate is the most effective one. Do you agree? And it continues, what are the other factors available for growth potential? Yes, 1 minute. What will you write here? It says, do you agree? And when you come across a question like, do you agree? Please understand they're not asking your personal opinion. It is a well-established opinion, which is what you have to write here. What will you write? Do you agree that savings is the most effective for potential growth? Others can think. Last. One respects. Sorry? Please. Foreign investment is equally important. Okay. You are saying something. You agree that it is the most effective one. Okay. Then, anyone else? Yes. It is. What he is trying to say is savings is important, but savings is not the only factor. Understand this. You look at the three relationship now. Do you think increase in savings will always lead to GDP growth? We discussed paradox of thrift now. What does paradox of thrift say? If you save too much money, even then that is a problem. Savings is important, but the saving should neither be too high nor too less. It should be moderate. That is what you have to write and explain it. Did you understand? Second part. What do you think are the other factors available for growth apart from savings? In such questions, right? Just keep one framework. It's the most easiest framework. If you keep that framework, you can write a lot of points. First framework is, I told you, how do you measure GDP by expenditure method? I told you it is measured as private final consumption expenditure, gross capital formation, government final consumption expenditure plus net exports. You got your four factors here itself. Apart from savings, can I say PFC, consumption expenditure is also equally important, because if there is no demand, companies will not make investment only. What has happened now in India? Can I say consumption expenditure has fallen? Investment is also equally important. Like if you have savings, but if most of the savings are physical savings, what's the use? Saving should be in what form? Financial savings. Government final consumption expenditure in a country such as ours, especially during slowdown, who should take the lead in spending money? Government. You know what is called as crowding in effect? That point. Net export. Give me an example of a country which has been able to achieve phenomenal growth due to exports. China and now Vietnam. You got 4 points here. Then I told you to increase GDP Apart from these things, you also have factors of production. What are those factors of production? Land, labor. Second one is what? Labor. Then what is also equally important is entrepreneurship. And now we are living in the age of Industrial Revolution 4.0. For that, what we need? Technology. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points. You got these 7 points from just one framework as to how GDP is measured or what factors contribute to GDP. समझ में आया सबको? Everyone? We'll come back to the structuring of this question. Do not worry. But I just wanted to make you understand the importance of what we covered just now. Okay. Okay. Okay, now we are getting into the present status and trends. Please write down present status and trends. That is the third dimension. Yeah, good Saksham. Okay, with respect to present status and trends, right? The gross domestic savings. The gross domestic savings has declined from 34% in 2011-12 to 30% in 23-24. Okay, let me just tell you what is this meaning. 34 to 30. See, generally, you know, various fiscal parameters, a lot of indicators in India, we express them as percentage of GDP. GDP is of two types. I hope everyone knows two types of GDP, real GDP and nominal GDP. Please tell me, when we say percentage of GDP, which GDP are we actually referring to? Real or nominal? Yes? By default, it is always nominal GDP. Always nominal GDP. Getting that point? So now see how much is our savings rate now in the year 23-24. How much is savings rate? 30% of GDP. Which GDP are we talking about? Nominal GDP. What is India's nominal GDP as of last year? Anyone knows? You know in terms of dollars. I'm asking in terms of rupees. 127 lakh crore is too less. 127 is too less. How much is nominal GDP? Yes. 150 is too less. बोली चल रही है यहाँ पे. ऑक्शन चल रहा है. Okay, just hold on. Please have a look at this. This shows what is the nominal and real GDP. The green color shows the real GDP. The blue color line shows the nominal GDP. 24-25, at the end of last year, the financial year 24-25, our nominal GDP was 3 to 4 lakh crores. Please check how much you write our savings rate as. 30%. Do an approximate data. It is 30% of 320 lakh crore. Yes? Yes, that is what we are saving in 1 year. In what are we saving that money? Both financial savings as well as physical savings. Do you understand the most basic thing? Okay. Next. The households account for 60%. The households account for 60% of the total savings in India. The households account for 60% of the total savings in India. Okay. See, there are two ways to look at this. I told you money is saved by public, private and household. If you add these three's total savings comes out to be 30% of our GDP. Out of that, if you look at households, they account for 12% of the GDP. Savings is 18% of GDP. So you can just see out of 30%, 18% is of household. I'm just converting it into total savings. Total kitna aega? 60% of the total here. It's like saying, you said just now how much is the total savings in absolute value? 90, 19, let's say 90 to 100, 97. Usme you can say 60% of that is the households. How much? 55 ke aspas. Yeah, that is what households are saving. Did you get the data now? Okay. No confusion? Okay. Let's generate the points here with respect to significance of savings. Why are savings important for a country? Okay. Please pay attention. I've seen so many students, when they attend the class, they are able to understand all the points that we cover. The problem is after the class, when they are actually writing answers, let's say in MGP or answer writing focus group, the biggest problem which they are facing is they are unable to recall the points. The problem is not that you have not understood. The problem is in what? Recalling. And to recall points, please understand, for every topic, please try to create a kind of framework. If you have that framework ready-made, from there itself you can generate 5 to 6 points. And in mains, how soon you complete the paper, that is the key here. So the framework for this, I'll just tell you very simple. What I will do, the framework here that I'm going to keep is very simple framework. GDP is equal to, once again, private final consumption expenditure, gross capital formation, government final consumption expenditure, plus the net exports. From this framework itself, I'll start generating the points. Let's see how. Okay. Let's see what point we can generate here with respect to first point. Consumption expenditure. Socho, can you generate some point with respect to expenditure by the people for savings? Okay. Savings enable people to meet exigencies and thus ensure financial resilience. Just call someone. Okay. Can you see this word? Savings enable people to meet exigencies and thus ensure financial resilience. I hope you agree with me on this. If people have savings, they can meet some exigencies, emergency conditions like healthcare. Look at, I said insurance, pension, all of that is needed to have financial resilience. How do you add value to this answer? Always, whenever you write a bullet point, try to add value addition. Is there a recent example where savings enable people to be more resilient to shock? COVID. So that is a word. Example. Health insurance during COVID. Okay. Second. Okay. Look at the second word, GCF, gross capital formation. Can I say here that savings enable gross, okay, savings enable more investment in the economy. But how do you link it to the current affairs? Look at all the savings, the forms of savings in India. In the recent years, which form of savings do you think has increased? Financial savings mein. Can I say capital market, right? People are investing more in shares as well as bonds. If people are investing in more in shares and bonds, can I say it is enable the companies to get more capital easily, right? So example here is increased investment in shares and bonds has provided access to capital for the companies. Okay, let's see here. Let's see from this government final consumption expenditure. Government final consumption expenditure means government is spending money. How is government getting its money from? Apart from taxes, government is also borrowing money. Now, what is that source of borrowing for the government? Government securities. Government borrows money through government securities. What is the second major source of government borrowing? Yes? Yes. Government, apart from government securities, also borrows a lot of money from small savings schemes. When you deposit money in post office deposits, National Savings Certificate, Sukanya Samriddhi account, all of these are small saving schemes which enable the government to get capital, borrow easily. So can I say that increase in savings will enable the government to borrow more, right? So savings enable government to finance its deficit. Savings enable the government to finance its deficit. And here the example is government borrowings from National Small savings fund, NSSF, account for second largest share of borrowings after government securities. Okay. With respect to net exports, can you generate any point? Net exports के लिए? Yes. Huh? Savings and external market. How do you link the two? I can't link it to Forex. Anyone? You just have to say that if people are saving money, it is having a positive effect on our external sector. Anyone? If people are saving more, can I say the imports into India will reduce? People are saving more means they are purchasing less from outside India. So imports will reduce. That's the first thing. Second, if people are saving more money in India, the need for us to borrow money from outside India will automatically reduce. So dependence on foreign capital will reduce. So we can write savings lead to lower demand for imports and hence improves our current account deficit. And you could also say savings reduces dependence on foreign capital. Okay, so what I've done, if you see here, 1, 2, 3, 4. From the fourth point, how many points are generated? 2 points. So totally it's coming out to be 5. Can I generate some point for this GDP? I made that cycle. What is that cycle? Virtuous economic cycle. That is one. Second, can I say if people save money, it might lead to development of some sector of the economy? Which sector will get more developed if people are saving more money? Where are people saving money? People are saving money in deposits. People are saving in terms of shares and bonds. Which sector will get developed? Financial sector. So, you could write here, 7th point, savings facilitate development of financial sector. Example of which is increase in demat accounts in India. Increase in demat accounts has led to development of capital market. And last point is it will savings enable development of virtuous economic cycle. Example of such a cycle which has got developed, like I said, it's in China. Clear now, everyone? So that is how you need to generate the points with respect to importance of savings. Everyone has taken down? Okay. Yes? Savings, like you said, too much of savings will hinder gross capital formation. And if you save less, that will also hinder gross capital formation. Saving should be moderate. So this is the relationship which we covered now. Look at this. If savings is lower, what is happening to investment? Investment is also lower. If saving is lower, investment will be lower. At the same time, if savings is too much of savings will also discourage investment, gross capital formation. So what is good? Moderate savings. Moderate savings will lead to increase in investment. Clear? Okay. Now coming to what are the challenges in the mobilization of savings in India? Challenges in mobilization of savings. Okay. I'm giving you 1 minute. Just try to think. Just pay attention. Just try to think as to what are the factors which affect the savings. Factors which affect the savings. And then based upon those factors, try to generate points as to what are the problems in mobilizing savings in India. Just do it quickly. Take your time. Challenges in mobilization of savings. Done? Acha. Good. 1 point. But at least think of 5 to 6 points. Right. Think of the points. You can do that. It's a good. Just anyone has 2 to 3 points? You have 2 to 3? Good. Or 2 points? Good. 2 to 3 points. Then think. बिल्कुल. How many have written? Okay. Good. More than you have not written anything? सोच रहे हो? Okay. How many? 4? Okay. Which point? Good. Okay, good. 2 points. Employment of the people. Good. Yeah, good. More towards physical. Okay, good. Okay, let's focus here. What are the challenges in mobilization of savings in India? Okay. For this, once again, a framework, something like this. There is a particular person. This person wants to save money. Ask yourself how much money the person saves. On what factors it will depend upon. the most important factor is obviously how much money the person is earning, income, which once again is linked to what? Whether he has a job or not. Second thing, how much money the person is actually spending. That is also equally important, right? Apart from that, how much money the person spends, it also depends upon what? Price. Price of the goods and services. Apart from that, you could also say it also depends upon how much money the person has actually borrowed. Why borrowings may impact savings is, if a person has borrowed too much money, whatever money is earning, most of that money he will use it to repay the interest. He will have less amount of money to save. It also depends upon the tax policies of the government. To what extent the government is trying to promote financial savings. And apart from all of this, you can also say, to a large extent, it will also depend upon the financial literacy of the person. From these itself, you could generate 7 to 8 points. This is a framework that you should keep. Let's start with the first one, which is what? Income. What are the challenges in mobilization of savings? I would say the biggest problem in India is with respect to jobs. This is the biggest point with respect to jobs. What is the point here? With respect to jobs, the first biggest problem is India is having the problem of what is called as jobless growth. We are growing, but we are not creating enough number of jobs. How many of you know about employment elasticity? Have you heard of the term employment elasticity? Okay, for benefit of all, I'll just tell you here. We have what is called as employment elasticity. This is for your explanation only. It is calculated as percentage change in employment divided by percentage change in GDP. That is how you calculate employment elasticity. So it basically tells us for every 1% increase in GDP, how much is our increase in what? Employment. Let's say, for example, if our GDP growth rate is 10%. First scenario, if our GDP growth rate is 10% and our employment growth rate is also 10%, employment elasticity kitna hoga? Yes, 1. In simple words, 1% increase in GDP has led to what percent increase in employment? 1%. But in India, if our GDP grows by 1%, employment growth rate is just 0.1%. Our GDP is growing, but where is the problem? We are not creating enough jobs. And why is that? Because we are morely focusing on capital intensive. Do you understand what is employment elasticity, everyone? How much it is for India? 0.1. That is employment elasticity of India. So why India is having jobless growth, we'll cover that part later. But just know this important thing. You have taken down? Okay. So just know that India is having jobless growth. And whenever you write jobless growth, please try to quote India's employment elasticity. This is a kind of value addition that you should do. It is 0.1. not just jobless growth, the other bigger problem that India is facing is informalization of workforce, poor quality of jobs, poor quality of jobs, which is evident in the fact that 90% of our workers are employed in low wage, low productivity, informal sector jobs. And when you're writing this answer, you should underline this word: low wage, low productivity, informal sector jobs. Okay. So the first one is with respect to jobs. Second one is with respect to income. With respect to income, the first problem which India is facing is paradox of stagnant rural wages, and the second one is profit wage conundrum, which was highlighted by economic survey of this year's economic survey 24-25. Okay, please elaborate on this part. Have you written paradox of stagnant rural wages? Please put a hyphen and write. The rural wages have remained stagnant. The rural wages have remained stagnant in spite of increase in agricultural production. Okay, just pay attention here. When we say paradox, what we are trying to infer here is, on one hand, our agricultural production has increased. Ideally, increase in agricultural production should have translated into what? Increase in rural wages. But rural wages have remained stagnant. Do you know the reason for that? Anyone? Okay, there's something else. You can't put a blame on engineering all the time. This guy, so it's always there, na? Now, what is the new problem? Okay, I'll tell you here what has happened. Especially after COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of urban migrants, they have migrated back to rural areas, which means the percentage of people trying to find employment in agriculture has increased. When you have surplus labor, what will happen to wages of the workers? In fact, the percentage of workforce in agriculture has increased from 45 to 46% after the pandemic. So, right, this is due to, full stop, this is due to increase in the share of workforce. This is due to increase in the share of workforce in the agriculture from 45% to 46% after the pandemic. Okay. Second one, profit wage conundrum. Did you write this word? Everyone has written? Okay. Let's understand what is profit wage conundrum, which was one of the theme of this year's survey. Economic survey has highlighted, on one hand, if you look at the profits of companies, it has increased to 16-year high. Companies are making more profits now. You know that government is giving a lot of incentives to companies now. Like one of the biggest incentives the companies have got is their corporate tax has got reduced. Reduction in corporate tax has enabled these companies to earn record profits, which is 16-year high. Ideally, if they're earning more profit, ideally they should translate that profit into higher wages of their workers. But they have not done it. More profit they are keeping with themselves, which not only shows the problem of profit wage conundrum, it also shows another problem of rising inequalities in India. Can I say corporates are majorly owned by richest people? They are earning profit. They are keeping more profit with themselves. They are not passing on the benefit to the poor people. Clear with that? So continue. Profit wage conundrum, put a hyphen. The profits of the companies has increased to 16-year high, has increased to 16-year high, full stop. Yet the wages of the workers has remained lower. Okay, just see here. This was the framework which I told you. From income, we generated 2 points. Let's say from the expenditure, what point can you write here? With respect to expenditure, okay, remember, I told you that GDP is measured by expenditure method, which is private final consumption expenditure, gross capital formation, government final consumption expenditure, and net exports. Out of these four, which one is the main driver of India's economy? Private final consumption expenditure accounting for what percentage of GDP? PFCE accounts for 60% of our GDP. Why is India's GDP growing so rapidly? It is because people are spending more money. If people are spending more money, what will get compromised is our savings rate. So here you can write higher consumption expenditure, and you can substantiate this by highlighting that PFCE accounts for 60% of the GDP. Next, I said prices. Prices, you can elaborate that with what? High inflation. Generally, in which commodities you find high inflation in India? Mostly in food. High inflation, particularly in food. And you can give an value addition by giving an example. Example here is in 22-23, inflation rate remained above 6% for 9 consecutive months. For 9 straight months, inflation was more than 6%. You know inflation targeting framework. That inflation targeting framework says if RBI is unable to keep inflation between 2 to 6%, for 9 consecutive months, RBI must submit a report to the government explaining the reasons for its failure. For the first time, RBI submitted a report that year. Then you can add the next point. The next point is household debt has increased to all-time high, which is 40% of GDP in 23-24. Household debt has increased to all-time high of 40% in 23-24. Why do you think households have borrowed so much money? What has happened around this time? 23-24. क्या reason हो सकता है? Reason number one, we'll come to that point in the next next topic. Reason number one is lower rate of interest during pandemic. Rate of interest on loans was less during pandemic, so some people actually borrowed more. But for what purpose did they borrow money? They have generally borrowed money for purchasing consumer durables. When we say consumer durables like TV, then mobile phone, so those things they have purchased more of it. Did you get the point? Huh. If what happened during COVID and immediately after COVID, rate of interest on loans was less. This encouraged the households to borrow more because the rate of interest was less. That money which they borrowed, mostly they were borrowing it for consumer durables like TV, mobile phones, and so on. So that is why the household debt in India has reached to its all-time high of 40%. If households have borrowed more money, whatever income they're earning, most of that income they'll use it to repay the interest. They'll have less money to purchase, to save it. Getting it? Okay. Next. New income tax regime has discouraged savings. New income tax regime has discouraged savings. Okay. How so? You know, there are two income tax regimes in India now. There are two types of income tax that one can choose. We have right now we have now a old tax regime and we have a new tax regime. Now you can actually choose under which regime you want to pay the tax, under old regime or the new regime. Under the old regime, the tax rates are little higher as compared to the new tax regime. But one benefit of old tax regime is under old tax regime, you can take advantage of what? Tax exemptions. What tax exemptions? Like you could probably purchase a insurance, or you could probably purchase a mutual fund, pension. And if you are contributing to this, then on that you could avail tax benefits or tax exemption. So a lot of people earlier used to save money in insurance, mutual fund, not because they want to save money. They were saving money because they can save what? Tax. They could end up paying less tax. So they can take advantage of exemptions. By taking advantage of exemptions, they'll pay less tax to the government. Under the new tax regime, the tax rate is less, but there are no tax exemptions. There are some people who are now choosing the new tax regime, who are paying less tax. They are already paying less tax, na? So these people are thinking, why should I save money now? Why should I purchase, let's say, mutual fund or a insurance? So the new tax regime has, in a way, discouraged the savings. Did everyone get the logic here? You must have heard of that section 80D, na, where you can get a tax benefit of up to rupees 1.5 lakh. That was there under the old tax regime. It is not under the new tax regime. So that is what you need to write. You don't have to explain it to the examiner. You just have to write this word, that new tax regime without any tax exemptions has discouraged the savings. And then we can also say that in India, people save money more in terms of physical savings as compared to financial savings due to poor financial literacy. Dominance of physical savings as compared to financial savings due to poor financial literacy. Are we clear with this? How many points are written for this? Sorry? 7? Okay. Is that part clear, everyone? Fine. Now coming to the last part. The last part is way forward. What should we do? Right? Way forward. As evident, way forward, as evident in the growth model, of China and East Asian economies, as evident in the growth model of China and East Asian economies, comma, India needs to enhance its savings rate, from 30% to 40%. Needs to enhance its savings rate from 30% to 40% by promotion of jobs, promotion of high wage, high productivity formal sector jobs, by promotion of high wage, high productivity formal sector jobs, comma, controlling inflation, comma, reducing inequalities, comma, promoting financial literacy, etc. Full stop. Doing so would enable India to usher in virtuous economic cycle to usher in USHER to usher in virtuous economic cycle as recommended by Economic Survey 2018-19. As recommended by Economic Survey 2018-19. Is that clear, everyone? So 1 minute, please have a look at the entire topic of savings. Right from, we covered the basics, relation, present status, significance, challenges, as well as way forward. I would want you guys to write the answer structure, not the answer, but the answer structure to this particular practice question. Look at the question. Mobilization of savings is crucial for $7 trillion economy. Explain this statement. Discuss various challenges in mobilization of savings.